Beyond Reason Radio.
Flindicated. Yes, that is the word that you were hearing a lot today. Flindicated. That's right, as the DOJ, Department of Justice, drops the case against Michael Flynn in the wake of an internal memo release. Here is the report from Fox News right now. The Justice Department today moved to drop its case against former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn in a stunning development that comes after internal memos were released, raising serious questions about the nature of the investigation that led to Flynn's late 2017 guilty plea of lying to the FBI. The announcement came in a court filing after a considered review of all the facts and circumstances of this case, including newly discovered and disclosed information. As the department put it, DOJ officials said they concluded that Flynn's interview by the FBI was untethered to and unjustified by the FBI's counterintelligence investigation into Mr. Flynn, in that the interview was conducted without any legitimate investigative basis. Pretty amazing. Late this afternoon, Flynn tweeted a video of his grandson reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, along with the message, "And justice for all." Now, the federal judge overseeing the case would have to make the final determination to dismiss it. And this is something we've talked about on the show a little bit last week as well. Internal memos within the FBI came out, and they were basically asking whether their goal, it says here, it was questioning whether they wanted to get him to lie so he'd be fired or prosecuted, or get him to admit wrongdoing. So it seems like the investigation was done to just get at Trump, and they were going to do anything they could against Flynn, even if it went against normal FBI procedures, normal due process rights, using some antiquated law in the Logan Act, which is ridiculous, and they never were going to be able to charge him for, just to try to get something as leverage to get at Trump. And it seems the Justice Department has looked at all this, and they've seen enough, and there has been the move to dismiss this case. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We are on till 8 p.m. here on News Radio WFLA Orlando. Of course, we're on Facebook Live as well. You can like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page or send me a friend request and see the Facebook Live video. And you can also catch the podcast on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere that podcasts are available if you miss any of the show. And as usual, Mr. Tom Benson is here as well, producing. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing fine. What a sterling day today was, huh?
What do you mean by that, sterling?
It was gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
Sterling, yeah.
It was pretty interesting when I left this morning, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It wasn't ungodly hot.
We'll take it.
For now. How long does that last?
Not long, unfortunately. And
no.
I guess we're supposed to have some showers on Mother's Day, so enjoy it while you can.
Which is a shame, because there were a lot of local places that were going to set up outside seating in order to accommodate families who wanted to go out on Mother's Day, and it looks like the rain might really get in the way of that. So if you want to do that, maybe do that earlier this weekend. Are you planning on venturing out for the first time as things open up because of this?
No, not really. No.
You never like to do that anyway. So.
Well, that goes back to my high school days when the girls all practiced social distancing on me back then. That was decades ago.
But you're married now, so...
Yes, I am.
But your wife would never practice social distancing on...
Oh, yes, she does.
Now, was that before or after this?
The mantra for Mother's Day is, don't touch me.
Yeah. I'm supposed to get married in less than 2 months, Tom Benson. You are not. You're supposed to encourage me on how beautiful marriage is, and you're doing a terrible job.
Well, we have an office pool going here. We're taking wagers on how long the honeymoon's going to last. I have 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months.
Bud has 6 days.
Oh, man, he has no faith in me. All right, we're going to prove you all wrong. That's by the way, are they going to open the salons yet? Because I'm a little embarrassed to even do a Facebook Live video today because my hair is just too long.
You're a wild man.
It's just too much. And speaking of my fiance, Steffi, she loves it. She loves the long hair. I'm telling you, she wants me to have like Fabio, long flowing hair. I think that is her goal here.
Fabio.
And I'm like, no, I need a haircut. Just pointing that out. So we are going to talk a little bit about the Michael Flynn thing later on. I just wanted to get that out there. Unfortunately, what the Michael Flynn thing does, though, is it's another reason for people to distrust government completely, to believe that everything is a conspiracy. And I've noticed this a lot with the coronavirus pandemic. There's this new video that's going around, and I posted on Facebook to people to stop sending me this video. Because
How many copies have you gotten?
I mean, I've gotten so many. Watch this. It's the truth. Everything exposed. And I'm like, and I see it all over other people posting it. And unfortunately, YouTube and Facebook are really not helping. They think they are, but they're not because they keep taking down the video.
Yeah.
And that just breeds more.
Right. They perpetuate a conspiracy thing.
Yeah, they're trying to take it away, and all they're doing is actually perpetuating. Oh, well, they're taking it down. There must be something to this then.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a video called Plandemic, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds of what this video is about, but it's basically an interview with epidemiologist. She used to work with Fauci like in the 80s, named Judy Mikovits. And she goes through basically conspiracies that are saying that the way Fauci is doing this is going to get people killed, that we shouldn't want too much of a vaccine for this because it's better for our immune system if more people catch it, and yada, yada, yada. But a lot of it is basically just this fear is being promoted by Big Pharma and the globalists and Bill Gates, and, all this stuff is thrown in there. And apparently she was arrested years ago, accused of stealing stuff from the laboratory she was working at with Anthony Fauci. So people are saying this, and it's called Plandemic because it's like, oh, this is all part of the plan. This is all being pushed by the globalists. There's really not as much to worry about when it comes to this pandemic. And, of course, it's turned into this big conspiracy. And I just want to point out that I think most people are buying into this video not because, oh, it's so convincing and must be true. But I honestly think most people are buying into it because they want to believe it, because they don't like a lot of what the government is doing right now.
Mm-hmm. And in the video, she offers absolutely no collaborating evidence. None. It's just her words.
It's basically, when I watch the video, and I have to admit, I haven't done like an extended research into this. I've done a little bit today, what I can. But I did watch a lot of the video, and it's basically just her and her opinion of what happened. And they do play some clips of other doctors, but they don't even play all of that in context. But most of it is just her. So when you're watching it and you're like, oh, this must be true, you're just taking her word against the words of others. And I think people are doing that because, like I said, they distrust the way the government has responded to this. And unfortunately, when you look at the Michael Flynn case, a lot of people say, well, that proves we should distrust them, so we should distrust them here. But it bothers me that this is being spread because it's one thing to look at different aspects of different angles and try to come up to the conclusion. But I sense that people are just watching this and saying, aha, this must be the truth because it fits my preconceived biases. And that is what I sense here. Now, with any conspiracy out there, there is usually like a grain of truth to it, just like a little droplets of truth here and there. And then what they do is they take those little droplets of truth and then they try to connect the dots and make some kind of big plan out of it.
You sound like a newspaper reporter.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the media doesn't help with what they do, and that makes people distrustful of the media, so you're going to believe more in conspiracies like this. Yeah. But, an example of this, there's a reason why I'm skeptical of a lot of conspiracy theories out there, because I tend to believe that the world is more chaotic and incompetent than we want to admit. So when things are going on, I don't necessarily believe there's some kind of big master plan from some kind of shadow government or globalist conspiracy. I tend to believe it's individuals who have their own biases, or it's individuals who are being completely incompetent and were unaware of what was going on and just screwed up. Or, self-interested things or whatever it could be. But people believe, and I've said this before on the show, but people believe that I'm part of a conspiracy. I've had people troll me on Twitter, not a lot, but some people troll me on Twitter saying that the CIA is feeding what I should say. I've literally had someone on Twitter say, people like me on the radio are just feeding me and telling me what to say. It's the CIA.
Yes.
And I've had other people say Mitt Romney tells us what to say because he used to own Bain Capital.
Yeah.
Or something. Or we wouldn't get on this guest because Clear Channel told you not to do that. And you and I, Tom, we know the truth. We know how much of a small operation this actually is behind the scenes and how chaotic this place can actually be sometimes. And we know that all that stuff they're coming up with is junk. And I believe that's the way it is in a lot of things, including our government.
Believe us, we just don't want to mess with the suits at all. We don't want them to even know we're here.
A lot of times they don't even know I'm here
to
begin with. And I believe that's true with a lot of things in government, that when you actually lift the veil, the Wizard of Oz example, it's just a normal guy behind the curtain trying to make it seem like it's bigger than it really is. And that's what makes me kind of skeptical of a lot of conspiracy theories out there that believe in some kind of big master plan. But I was watching some of this video, and like I said, it's just basically one woman giving her opinion. She obviously has a chip on her shoulder with what happened with her years ago when she worked with Dr. Fauci. And she obviously doesn't believe what a lot of other scientists believe. But there's some of her arguments here that just seem a little too convenient for me, It's one of those things that it's like, you ever see the movie The Shawshank Redemption?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And everyone says, of course you're innocent.
Yeah.
And everyone in jail says, yeah, we're all innocent.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of like that. Now, sometimes people are. But I just want you to listen to a part of it here, and I'll tell you, stuff like this is what makes me skeptical of it. Here it is.
And so what did they charge you with?
Nothing.
But you were in jail.
I was held in jail with no charges. I was called a fugitive from justice. No warrant. Literally drugged me out of the house. Our neighbors are looking at what's going on here. They searched my house without a warrant. Literally terrorized my husband for 5 days. They said, if you don't find the notebooks, if you don't find the material, which was not in my possession but planted in my house.
As if you took intellectual property from the laboratory. Is that correct?
It was intended to appear as if I took confidential material, names, and intellectual property from the laboratory. And I could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that I didn't. Heads of our entire HHS colluded and destroyed my reputation, and the Department of Justice and the FBI sat on it and kept that case under seal, which means you can't say there's a case or your lawyers are held in contempt of court. So you can't even get a lawyer to defend you. So every single due process right was taken away from me, and to this day remains the same. I have no constitutional freedoms or rights.
So Anthony Fauci,
My name is Dr. Tony Fauci. I'm the director.
the man who is heading the pandemic task force, was involved in a cover-up.
He directed the cover-up. And in fact, everybody else was paid off, and paid off big time. Millions of dollars in funding from Tony Fauci, Tony Fauci's organization, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. These investigators that committed the fraud continue to this day to be paid big time by the NIAID.
So it's one of those things where apparently everybody is in on it. The government's in on it. The FBI's in on it. The investigators, they're paid off. Dr. Fauci, he's in on it, and he's paying other people off, and she was completely evidence, but the evidence was she was completely innocent, but the evidence was planted. And there's just so many things that are just convenient for her case, and it makes me wonder, a lot of that just, I'm a little skeptical of your story. All of these things just happen to be in line to go against you because they were just out to get you because
You supposedly took a notebook?
Yeah, some kind of other big conspiracy. And you know what? Maybe there's always a probability that something like this can be true. But what bothers me is I'm seeing so many people online on our side, and it's really, there's far left people doing this too, who are sharing this and say, this is true, you need to watch this. And I'm like, you can't be skeptical of this? Don't just say because it believes in your preconceived notion, because you don't like what the government's doing right now. You think they're overreacting, which I think they're overreacting. But why can't we just criticize them for overreacting without believing it's some kind of giant conspiracy? Because when you put forward arguments like this, it ruins the case of our side. It sullies the case that we're trying to make. And we get lumped in with everything else that you're just a bunch of conspiracy nuts. We can have a rational debate without believing everything is some kind of giant conspiracy. But I'm only telling you that because the CIA
Told you to say that.
Dr. Fauci,
Yes.
he told me. He called me and he said, I'll give you money to say this, Michael. Yes, Mr. Fauci. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime. Your voice of truth in a world of fake news. Beyond Reason Radio continues right now.
So I have the solution, Tom Benson, for the testing issue in this country in terms of how to run and get enough tests out there. Instead of expecting governments to do it or even hospitals to do it,
Sure.
I think we should have Chick-fil-A in charge of this. I actually saw someone post this earlier on Facebook. It was funny. Their drive-thru is run so efficiently that I think they would know how to run a drive-thru testing site better than anyone. I mean, if you ever go to a Chick-fil-A drive-thru, and you know what? Chick-fil-A was one of the first places I noticed where the employees had masks. Where do they get those? They looked like cows or something.
Yeah, the cow masks. Yeah.
Where did they get those so early? They were ready.
And when you get done and you say thank you, they would say, my pleasure.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we really want to solve this issue, put Chick-fil-A in charge.
Instead of some government hack saying, next, get out, keep moving.
This is Beyond Reason Radio. Welcome back to the show. We're talking a little bit about my skepticism of conspiracy theories because this Plandemic movie is going around. And I don't mind people being skeptical of things that are going on in our government right now in response to the coronavirus. I'm skeptical of it. But I just wish they would show that same skepticism with the other side as well. So if you're skeptical of what the government's doing and you see a video called Plandemic, you can't show some of the same skepticism for that video as well when there's obvious holes in what she was saying. Like
somebody you never heard of before automatically comes out with a thing and you believe it.
And that's what I'm noticing. And it's just confirmation bias. It's you want to believe it. You don't want to believe in what's going on right now. You don't want to believe in the chaos of a pandemic. You don't like what the government's doing, so you find something, oh, this must be true. And that bothers me. And another example of this that's really kind of annoying to me is there's a lot of people out there still pushing this theory that we're overcounting the deaths from coronavirus. And that was part of this Plandemic video. And we're just doing this to get money. And I'm not saying that there might not be some miscounting. I mean, in such a chaotic situation like this, there could very well be some miscounting. But I just don't think that argument has very much weight to it when you look at stats like this. U.S. coronavirus death toll is far higher than reported the CDC data suggests. And what they did is they looked at the total deaths in 7 states that have been hit hard by the pandemic. And they are nearly 50% higher than normal for the 5 weeks from March 8th to April 11th. You looked at New York City, the rest of New York State, New Jersey, Michigan, Massachusetts, Illinois, Maryland, and Colorado. The total deaths in those hard-hit states where they had a lot of coronavirus deaths and cases, the total deaths are way higher than normal just for that month. So a lot of extra people are dying, and a lot of those people that died are not being counted as dying from coronavirus. And people are saying, oh, this is being exaggerated. Well, then what are those extra people dying of if they're not dying of coronavirus? If you have thousands of more deaths in an area at the same time that there's a pandemic, it makes sense to me that maybe it's because of the pandemic, not because of something else. We're looking at total deaths. Now, some people pointed out to me, well, total deaths around the entire country are down. So that means it's being exaggerated. But that doesn't really make sense to me because there are a lot of places in this country that were not hit hard by the pandemic. A lot of places did not have the outbreak. And of course, total deaths are going to be down in those places because nobody's going outside. So people are not dying in murders and car accidents and other things that they would usually die of. So you can't just look at the whole country, total deaths are down, that means this is all a conspiracy. Well, but in the areas where there's obvious hotspots, obvious outbreaks, the total deaths in those areas are all up. So why are you telling me, oh, well, it's just exaggerated, it's just like the flu, this is no big deal? You're hurting our argument. I am one of these people who thinks the government's gone too far. I am one of these people who says we shouldn't have shut down everything because I think it's counterintuitive. I'm one of these people who thinks going into the next Great Depression could be worse in the long run. But when I hear arguments like this, it bothers me because it taints my argument. And people don't want to listen to common sense because they just think, oh, you're just one of those conspiracy nuts and blah, 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 blah. This is why conspiracy theories annoy me. It's kind of like, and like I said, they take grains of truth and try to connect them. It's like, I went to Washington, D.C. for a day as a part of my vacation last week. Someone could just say, he works for the radio. Yes. And he went for D.C. for a day, two grains of truth.
I wonder who he met with.
But who did he meet? He must have been there to get talking points from the CIA. That's how it works. They take grains of truth and make it into something that isn't there. We have to talk about this case in Georgia of an unarmed black man who they say was apparently jogging, gunned down by what looks like some vigilantes. We'll talk about that next on this edition of Beyond Reason Radio.
If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio. Safe space for conservative thought, not for political correctness. Yaffee is back right now.
So mysteriously, Tom Benson, my Facebook Live video went down.
Aha!
In that first segment, and crashed.
Trying to silence you.
I think they are, because I played part of that Plandemic video. They're like, take it down.
Yes.
Even though I was criticizing it, but sounds like they're out to get me. What I'll do is I'll contact my friends at the CIA that I apparently have. And
have them look into it.
They'll straighten out this mess right now. So we have to actually get into another topic. It's a very serious topic that really blew up in the media yesterday. And it has to do of the shooting and killing of a 25-year-old Georgia man named Ahmaud Arbery. Now, of course, he is a black man, and he was killed by two white men. And so that's a big reason why it's getting a lot of the attention. But the other reason it's getting a lot of attention right now is the video surfaced of the shooting. And when you see the video, it looks pretty bad. And the two men that shot and killed Ahmaud were not arrested. They're still not arrested for this, and that's causing a lot of outrage. But just a little bit of background on the story so you know. There is video of the shooting of a 25-year-old Georgia man named Ahmaud Arbery. Emerged yesterday. It says, what happened? Former cop Gregory McMichael says he saw Arbery, quote, hauling ass down his street. He says they were saying he was just jogging. And assumed the black man was the burglar who had recently been targeting neighborhood homes. Now, McMichael, his son, and a third man armed with a handgun and a shotgun got into two cars and chased Arbery down the street. Now, you don't see that part in the video. The video doesn't actually solve everything in this case because in the video, what you see in the video, they've already started fighting each other. So in the video, you see the black man, Ahmaud, struggling with the guy with the shotgun and trying to get it out of his hands. And then you hear 3 separate gunshots and you see that he falls down dead. Now, the older McMichael told police that he shouted at Arbery to stop and Arbery didn't. When the posse caught up with him, there was a confrontation. This is where the video surfaces. In the video, Arbery first goes around the vehicle to confront one of the men, and we hear a shot. The video then shows Arbery tussling with another man, moving away as we hear the sound of 2 more shots. Then we see Arbery falling to the ground. By the way, I'm reading a lot of this from the National Review, and the corner had a good outline of all of this. So there's basically the incident. It says here, whatever we might learn moving forward, the entire situation was instigated by the McMichael posse, which made the decision to chase down a man, down the street after concluding without any genuine evidence that he was a burglar. So when I look at the details of this case, and obviously there could be more details that come out, but when I look at the details of this case, this seems like a couple of guys.
Couple of yahoos.
Yeah. Thinking they're going to do some vigilante justice.
Yeah.
Coming up with their own conclusions.
Right. He's a burglar, but he's not carrying anything.
Yeah. They just assume he's the burglar. Now, there was some people pointing out that Arbery had a record of some minor criminality, and I guess they said he was looking at a construction site or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't excuse
killing
you
the guy.
Go after the guy and kill him.
Yeah.
And some people are saying, well, yeah, but they only killed him out of self-defense because he fought with them. Well, if you're a man just jogging down the street and you see 3 men with guns, one with a shotgun, tell you to stop, they're not in police uniform or anything. They're obviously not cops. You're black, they're white. You're telling me you're just going to go along with what they say?
Yeah, sure.
Of course not.
Yeah.
You're going to fight.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to either try to run for your life, but you can't because where are you going to go? They're in a car and they have guns.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to try to fight for your life. So it turned out that the McMichael family, the son and the father, they first claimed self-defense in this case. But then they changed it all of a sudden and said, no, what they're doing, They were doing a citizen's arrest.
Yes, right, sure.
Mm-hmm. Because they thought he was the burglar, even though they had no real evidence. But here's the thing. According to the law, you cannot just... That's not how a citizen's arrest works. They do allow citizen's arrests in Georgia. But it says here, a private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, a private person may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. But obviously here there was no reasonable or probable grounds. He was just a guy running down the street. That doesn't make him a burglar or a criminal. And this is why it's much better not to take the law into your own hands like they did, but call the police. If you really suspect something.
Call the police and trail the guy, you know?
Yeah, but they didn't do that. They tried to stop him while brandishing guns.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't expect the guy to fight back?
Mm-hmm.
And then they shoot him dead.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, these guys should be arrested. Now, there's talk of a grand jury that's going to look into this. And apparently, the father, McMichael, Gregory McMichael, he is a former cop and was friends with a lot of the prosecutors in town. And
you go.
They think that might be why he was able to get away with this for so long, which is kind of outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's going to be able to get away with it forever now.
Yeah.
But it says, in this conclusion by David Harsani in the National Review, he said, the McMichael posse didn't mistakenly shoot down an innocent man in a botched effort to protect their home or their property. It is unlikely that their lives were in any real danger, and if they were, it was a precarious situation of their own making. And that's what I agree with. This is outrageous. You can't just go down being vigilantes, telling random people who are going down the street to stop, and then when they don't listen to you, shoot them dead. No, that's not how this works. Here's the one other problem with this all, though. So you have a really bad situation with really bad guys who did get away with something initially and should be prosecuted and probably convicted for this. Now, I don't know if it would be considered first-degree murder or second-degree murder or some, it looks like it would be some kind of homicide. I don't know exactly which one. I am not a legal expert. But you have this terrible situation. But of course, what happens? The reaction to it doesn't help. So I noticed when this video surfaced yesterday that many people, including like politicians and prominent people in the media, were reacting to the video and saying, this was a straight up lynching. And on and on and on. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? When you put out stuff like that, when you say something like that, that obviously is going way too far, all you're doing is going to make people unsympathetic to your side when this is something we all should agree on. But it's obviously not a lynching, because lynchings were basically just stringing up and killing black men just because they were black with the purpose of going to kill them. So your initial purpose is to go out, find the black man, and kill him just because he's black mostly. And you kind of make up some false crime, but there you go. There's no evidence, at least as of yet, that they intended to kill this guy. They didn't intend in this situation to go after him because he's black and just kill him because he's black. Now, they might be racist, and they might have assumed he was guilty because he's black. But it doesn't seem like when you have a scuffle and you see the video, it's not a lynching. So criticize what happened. Be outraged what happened, but be outraged correctly, I guess is the way to put it. Be outraged like you should. But instead, some of the reaction is just making things worse. So you have the initial situation, which of course is totally beyond reason, but then you have the reaction that's totally beyond reason, including NBA star LeBron James. So LeBron James comes out and tweets this in response. He says, "We're literally hunted every day, every time we step foot outside the comfort of our homes." We're literally hunted every day, and I'm pretty sure LeBron James, he's only hunted by the tabloids. and fans, adoring fans. Can't even go for a damn jog, man. Like, WTF, man, are you kidding me? No, RUFR, are you kidding me? I'm sorry, Ahmad, rest in paradise. My prayers and blessings sent to the heavens and your family above. So he's outraged. He should be outraged. But to go out and say something that we're literally hunted every day, every time we step foot outside the comfort of our homes, does anyone actually believe that in today's America? Of course not. It's ridiculous. LeBron James is black, and he's very successful. Much more successful than I am. Now, someone responded to that, which is interesting. Jason Whitlock from Fox Sports responded for that. He said, this isn't helpful.
He's a black guy, by the way.
Yeah, he's black. Mm-hmm. And he's right. He's exactly right here. He says, this isn't helpful. He's co-host Speak for Yourself. He says, it's Twitter trolling. It's using this man's tragedy to build a brand as more outspoken than Michael Jordan. There are all kinds of ways to draw attention to this tragedy. Suggesting that we are hunted every day, every time is just stirring. He's exactly right. Of course, other NBA colleagues rushed to defend James. But, I mean, come on. Be outraged, because it is outrageous. But don't take it too far just to try to, politicians take it too far to score political points. Mm-hmm. Other people take it, the Al Sharptons of the word, take it too far just to stoke division. And LeBron James is taking it too far. Who knows why? Because he thinks it makes him feel better. But, come on, it's not a lynching. Black men are not hunted every time they step outside. All this does is stoke even more division on something we should not be divided about. There's no reason to. I think most people would agree that the people who shot and killed this man should be in jail, because you shouldn't be doing good old-fashioned vigilante justice and stopping people on the road with your guns. And when they don't exactly respond to you and they fight back, you kill them and say, oh, well, it's just self-defense. No, it's not self-defense. You should be put in jail for some kind of homicide. So, good job, everyone. It's just annoying to me that you have a situation that's definitely beyond reason outrageous. But then some of the reaction, of course, is beyond reason and outrageous as well. We'll have some other things to talk about. I don't know what I'm going to talk about next. There's a couple different directions I could go. We'll see. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Download the iHeartRadio app and catch the Beyond Reason Radio podcast. The place where we talk faith, culture, and politics. Beyond Reason Radio continues.
Well, we only have a few minutes left on this edition of Beyond Reason Radio, but I do have some news. Programming note here for those who listen to me on News Radio WFLA Orlando. I am filling in for Bud tomorrow morning.
Is that right?
Yeah, usually I produce, but I will be host tomorrow on Good Morning Orlando.
Now, you get your talking points mailed to you at what, midnight?
Oh, yeah. I mean, first, midnight, the CIA. And then about 1 a.m., Mitt Romney himself tells me what to say.
Got it.
And, then the Republican Party shortly after. You know how it works.
Yeah.
And lately I've been getting these notes from Anthony Fauci, and he's like, hey, you got to say this. I'm like, man.
If you're on the radio, you should have a mask on, young man. You're transmitting viruses.
Yeah. Can you imagine if they make us do that? Oh, jeez. Yeah. But one thing I am going to talk about, two big topics tomorrow. Going to talk about Joe Biden, because his accuser, Tara Reid, accused him of sexual assault years ago, finally did an interview. Now, did it with Megyn Kelly, which is very interesting. She was supposed to be on Fox News Sunday last Sunday and then canceled.
Yeah, she blamed that on security concerns.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I felt like her not getting interviewed and speaking out and not going on with the Sunday show did not make her look good.
Yeah. Well, the Megyn Kelly interview is on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's not available on, I'm sure it's going to be played in a lot of media outlets, but I'm sure you'll have some audio tomorrow on that.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to play some audio of that. Interesting piece I was going to get into in the last show that I didn't, but it's by Tom Del Beccaro on FoxNews.com. And he thinks that the main reason, because Joe Biden has not wanted to reveal some documents out there that some say might have evidence of this sexual assault, or at least the complaint.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to reveal it, and people think, oh, he's just trying to cover up the sexual assault.
Sure.
But on this piece, he believes that the real reason why Biden doesn't want to reveal those documents...
Here we go. Conspiracy. The real reason, eh?
Yeah, from the University of Delaware. His Senate papers are housed at the University of Delaware. He thinks it would be the final straw in the breaking his candidacy. Mm-hmm. Not because of some conspiracy, like you said, but because so many of his previous takes on issues and policy positions are too moderate for his leftist base.
Yeah.
That the party has gone so far to the left, and he has followed them, that if all this stuff comes out, that he actually had pretty moderate take on the issues, that he would once again not be able to energize his base enough to get out the vote and vote against Trump.
And yesterday, Tucker Carlson said that the young lady, Tara Reid, is a supporter of
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie, yeah. So there might be something more there.
He's gotten pretty skeptical of this.
Yeah.
Which is why, I didn't know whether to believe her. That's why you have innocent until proven guilty. That was the point we were making of Kavanaugh. We don't come to our own conclusions. And we can't just come out and say, oh, because we hate Biden, she must be telling the truth. But the main point was the media hypocrisy.
Sure.
In covering the issue.
Sure.
And the Democrat Party hypocrisy, Nancy Pelosi and Biden and everything else. So the other issue we are going to talk about on the morning show as well, we'll have coronavirus stuff is also on the show, but we will talk about the fact, what I started out the show with, that Michael Flynn, who is the former NSA, who is ousted and all that, I brought it up. It looks like the DOJ is going to move to drop that case, and we went over the different details. So we'll go over some of that. Trump commented on that, and really went after the FBI and everything.
It will be interesting to see if there's any further fallout, like the dominoes will fall, so to speak, and other people are accused of false prosecution or, not obeying the proper procedures for investigating these things. Yeah,
the best opinion I saw on this, there was some good opinions, but Kim Strassel from the Wall Street Journal is really good, and she wrote shortly after the revelations from those memos, says, perhaps the most important aspect of the documents is what isn't in them. The FBI expresses no concern that Mr. Flynn was colluding with Russia or otherwise threatening national security. Supposedly, the rationale for the FBI's intrusion investigation in the first place. So by this point, it just wanted to scalp, a means to keep its broader narrative rolling. It says the FBI exists to investigate crimes, not to create them. Some might add this shameful behavior to the long list of the FBI's collusion malfeasance. But the Flynn case is something different. This isn't the FBI playing fast and loose with the sources or the courts. This is law enforcement abusing its most tyrannical power to strip citizens of their reputations, their livelihoods, and their liberty. The FBI's treatment of Mr. Flynn lives up to Americans' worst fears. And she believes, that the case should be dropped. So that's another issue we're going to talk about tomorrow on the show. On Good Morning Orlando when I fill in for Bud. Thank you for listening to Beyond Reason. If you missed any of the show, catch the podcast anywhere that podcasts are available. You can like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page. Follow me on Twitter at Michael Yaffee. And, catch you guys next time.